Yes, it may just be a bunch of rookies. And yes, it's probably a lot of players that will never really play for the Avs in the NHL. But even then, at least in some capacity, the Avs are back on the ice playing hockey games. Avs rookies win over the LA Kings rookies 3-2.
Colorado has won the Stanley Cup.
Now, to set the stage here, the level of competition in this rookie face-off is probably somewhere around the AHL level. The top end of these rosters absolutely have NHL caliber talent, but down the roster, you get into some question marks to say the least. So I'm not saying don't get hyped on who you want to get hyped on, get hyped, but just take it with a grain of salt. Understand that this isn't quite the NHL. With that being said, I thought the Avs looked pretty darn good, especially the top half of their roster. Yes, there was a bunch of sloppiness, especially early on, a bunch of kids who haven't really played together very much. That's not all that surprising. But when you go through the list of names that are in the Avs organization on NHL contracts, you have Ben Meyers, you have Oskar Olausson, you have Jean-Luc Foudy. Even Bocage and Ranta all looked very, very good. On the back end, Zaravyov, I thought, looked quite solid. So I do think there are a number of positives that you can take here. And I say that as if they didn't win. They won the game too, so that's cool. The Avs were certainly the sloppier team to start, though, and it does cost them. They end up giving up the first goal. So it's a full ice breakout for the Kings here, and you see what they do very well is they get 3 players across, going full speed across the blue line. The Avs completely give them the blue line. They're very, very soft there, which is understandable when you have that much speed coming at you. And then their coverage is actually pretty decent. You have everything lined up here. There's nothing that dangerous. Fortunately, Nolan Orzeck, an invitee to the camp, just gets beat by just enough, and he gets caught facing the wrong direction. Passing lane ends up coming in behind him on his backside, so he can't get his stick in the passing lane, and that's enough room to just get beat as the puck goes in behind him. Not going to complain too much about that one. When the other team beats you by a tiny margin like that, you tip your cap and you go get the next one. And that's exactly what the Avs do. Throughout this game, they leaned on their top 2 lines a lot, as I mentioned, but in particular, that top line of Olausson, Meyers, and Foudy, it felt like those were the key guys. Those were the guys that either as soon as this year in Meyers' case or in the others a little bit down the line, you could legitimately see them in Avalanche uniforms in NHL games. I don't want to take away from the others. Of course, there are pathways for them too, but that first line stood out. And they stood out for a reason, because they're the ones that get that goal back. Off of a clean offensive zone faceoff win, the Avs are able to get it back to their D. You get a little bit of revenge for Orzeck, who goes over to Bhutan here, and they're able to get a shot towards the net. Now you see the Avs have crashed 2 forwards into the slot area here. In front is Olausson, and net front is Ben Meyers. Don't forget to give Ben Meyers some credit here. He really puts his body on the line here and does a good job of screening the goalie, so Olausson can come out and get a stick on this puck. The shot beats the first man, and that's all you're ever really asking for a defenseman to do. Olausson recognizes it, shows some good hand-eye coordination to get the tip, and just floats it past the goalie. Look, we know Olausson already has a great skill set when it comes to his shooting and skating ability. If he can start doing things like that, going to the correct areas, finding greasier ways to score goals like deflections, that's a quick trip to the NHL for him if he can do that consistently on top of everything else. So it's really great to see him scoring in some different ways, and hopefully that's something he can add to his game going forward. The Avs don't wait around as they score another goal just 19 seconds later, and if I'm being honest, I think there's a very good argument that Sampo Ranta was the Avs' best player in this game. This one is basically a one-man show. A slow-rolling puck is in the offensive zone here, and Bocage does do a good job of getting pressure on so this puck doesn't get out easy. That allows Sampo to collect it, and then he just takes over. He pulls up, creates a ton of space for himself, getting 4 guys deep on the Kings side, leaving him room to step into, which he does. He uses it to the full extent that he can to get himself back on his forehand side, and then you see him, has he been talking to Cale Makar? Learning from Cale Makar a little bit? You get a little bit of the shoulder shimmy here to try and create room, and he gets LA to back off heavily. A lot of room to work with there. They're not respecting the shot, so he says, okay, I'll find a lane and I'll shoot it, and he manages to slip it through. Yes, the goal itself was certainly a little bit weak from the goaltender. I understand that, but don't focus on that. Focus on Ranta's ability to create space for himself and find an opportunity individually. Showing that he has the ability to find that space at this level is critical for him. It's something you have to be able to do in professional hockey to be successful. That should be expected of Ranta with 1 year of pro experience under his belt, but it's still good to see. He also continued to drive offense this entire game, getting multiple good opportunities. This was just the one that happened to go in the net. So after the first period, the Avs are up 2-1 and honestly look pretty good. The second period was the period of special teams. There was not a ton of 5-on-5 time. Both sides had multiple power play opportunities. The Avs had 3, couldn't score on a single one of them, but it wasn't for trying. They had a good number of chances, particularly Ben Meyers repeatedly generated quality opportunities both on his own stick and on his teammates. So that first power play unit, which added Bocage to the top line, really did look very good, just not quite enough finish. The other side, unfortunately, the penalty kill came up a little bit shorter than the power play, and they do end up giving one up. On the penalty kill, this one starts with a mad scramble in front. It's total chaos, and Annunen can't cover this one up, so it stays loose and allows LA to continue battling. They eventually get it loose and get it out up high. And you see, this is Sampo Ranta, who's going to commit to the puck carrier here. He's going out high, and this is Ben Meyers, the other forward currently on the penalty kill. Ranta commits fully. He goes all in, going high and going to the puck carrier, and ends up behind him. This isn't great, but it's not that much of a disaster. The players around him just need to recognize what's going on. Now there's a little bit of a handoff here where Ranta, whether he meant to or not, falls off of the puck carrier, which now leaves the high defenseman to come out and take the puck carrier, leaving 2 players in front. The low defenseman is, of course, going to take the man in front, so you need Ben Meyers and Sampo Ranta to recognize the situation, and Meyers needs to step up and in front to stop this pass from the slot from coming through, while Ranta swaps off and back to the far side. Meyers here can then cover anything. You might be giving up a shot from the top of the circle, but nothing extremely dangerous, and Ranta covering the back door. Instead, there is no switch here, and Ranta is just caught behind the play and can't close down quickly enough to cover the slot pass, while Meyers is effectively covering nothing at the moment. It's a system the Avs run pretty normally on the PK. They like to run that forward out high, so you do need to work on that swap. Every forward that plays for them on the penalty kill needs to understand that swap. They get it wrong here, and that's a really tough puck to stop. I don't want to rag on this too much because, again, it's a bunch of rookies. The systems aren't really going to be fully installed for these guys, so getting a systems mistake on that is no big surprise. More importantly, though, that was all that Justus Annunen gave up in this game. 2 goals that it's impossible to fault him for, and that was it. He allowed the Avs the opportunity to get over the hump in this game by not giving up anything else. And that sums up the third period. Neither team wanted to make the critical mistake, and both teams' goalies played quite well to make sure they wouldn't fall behind. Ultimately, though, when it came down to clutch time, you were looking at your more experienced players. On LA's side, they had Quinton Byfield, who wasn't able to get it done. On the Avs side, they had Ben Meyers. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Ben Meyers played a great game. He played a good one. He generated some good opportunities, but he lacked finish and wasn't the best on the defensive side. Even with all of that, though, ultimately, he's the guy who you're expecting to be in the NHL this year. And when it came down to it, he did what he had to do, and that's why. It's a great example of how you can open up space here when you work it low to high against a D. Look at how packed in LA is at this moment as the Avs work the puck in deep in the zone with Meyers curling. They're completely committed below the hash marks here. So when they do eventually work it back out to the top, there's a lot of ground that LA has to cover to get back up here, and they start to spread out and drift towards the blue line. As that happens, Meyers just kind of cuts back, cuts inside, and finds a little bit of space for himself. As the Avs just throw a puck on, looking for something good to happen, Meyers is the one who gets to the correct area and gets the tip on to win the game. Meyers knows hockey is a simple game. If the fancy stuff, if the quality stuff isn't working, sometimes you got to get greasy. So he finds a way to a dirty area, makes a play, and he wins the game for the Avs. It's easy to see why Meyers is going to be successful in the bottom 6 at the NHL level because of things like that. The Avs are able to get the win, and they remain undefeated since late June. Pretty funny that you still get to say that. A fun way to start the rookie tournament and a couple more games coming up, so good practice for me too to get back into this routine. That is the end of this game video review. Thank you for watching. Head on over to thednvr.com for all of our coverage. I am Rudo, and it's good to be doing these videos again.
Avalanche time, come on, grab your friends, we're going to the